Well, the cold weather has certainly delayed our progress in the small fruits garden, but there's still plenty of time to get our plants in the ground. Today we're working in our grape bed. Last week we established this trellis system. This week we're going to finish preparing the soil and get one of our plants in the ground. Now, the first thing to consider when you're planting grapes is site selection. Like most of our small fruits, grapes need a sunny location. They tolerate a wide range of soils, but need good drainage and also good soil moisture retention. So if your soils don't drain well, you might consider planting them on a raised bed like we're constructing here. This will help improve drainage. We also often see grapes planted on a slope, which helps with the drainage issues. You do want to avoid planting at the bottom of a slope or other low-lying areas because cold air tends to settle down here, which can increase frost damage to plants. One more consideration when you're selecting your site is water accessibility. We're going to have to irrigate our plants throughout the season, so you want to make sure water's available. Now, we've had a very wet spring and late winter because of the snow cover and also some rains, and that's prevented us from working the soil. In order to preserve the structure of the soil, we want to avoid tilling or plowing when it's too wet. So how do you know if it's too wet to work? Well, the easiest way is to grab a handful of soil and just squeeze it gently in your hand. If it balls together like this, it's too wet and you want to wait until it dries out. But if you squeeze it and then it breaks up easily, it's dry enough to work. So finally, our bed is dry enough to get started. Ideally, soil preparation actually begins the season before we plant. And the reason for this is, one, it could take a very long time to get especially our perennial grass weeds or Bermuda, Johnson grass under control. And last year, that's what we did. We removed the turf. We had some turf in this area. We removed that and got all of our weeds under control. The other thing that can take a while is amending the soil. Grapes ideally grow in a soil pH between 5.5 and 6.5. And oftentimes we have to lower the pH of our native soils, and that requires adding sulfur. And the sulfur takes a while to make those soil pH adjustments. In addition to the sulfur that we added to our soil last season to lower the pH, this year we're going to add some organic matter. And there are a number of sources of organic matter. Straw, manure, and compost are good sources. There are a lot of commercially available compost sources. We're using Boost It, which is a humified compost from Soil Smart Organics. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn this into our soil. You want to make sure that you mix the compost with the native soils below. You don't want to have a hard pan of your native soil with all your compost on top. You want a nice integrated bed. I think of organic matter as a magic elixir to our soil. When you have heavy clay soils like this, the compost helps to loosen it up, which improves drainage. And if you have a real sandy soil, it does the opposite. It creates some pore spaces where water will hold better in the soil. Now, the other needs that you might have in your garden are fertilization. And when you get your soil test results, that'll tell you if you need to add nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium. Those are the nutrients that are generally in greatest need. It's important to note when you get your soil test result, it tells you the actual amount of nitrogen needed. And this is not the same as the amount of fertilizer. You need to calculate your fertilizer rates based on the type of product you're using and what percentage of that product is nitrogen. This can be a little confusing, but your county extension agent is a wonderful resource if you're having trouble calculating fertilizer rates. Generally, grapes are going to require 15 pounds per acre in their first year. Our bed's just about ready to get a plant in the ground.